Hello, everyone, and welcome to Standing Out in the U.S. Undergraduate Admissions Process. My name is Jenica Heim, and I am the Education USA Advisor for Eastern Canada. Education USA is a U.S. Department of State program. We have hundreds of advisors across the world, and we support students with their higher education journey. We offer accurate, comprehensive, and current information about accredited U.S. post-secondary options. Do feel free to learn more about the network at educationusa.state.gov. We have two advisors in Canada, so I'm one of them, and you can see my email address there. We're also joined by Rachel.
Hi, everyone. I'm Rachel. I'm the Western Canada Education USA Advisor. So my area would be BC, Alberta, Manitoba, and Saskatchewan. So if you have any question, reach out to me, and this is my email address.
Awesome. Thanks, Rachel. And Rachel will be here in the chat, available to answer questions throughout the session. Education USA provides free advising resources. So at this time of year, we're pretty busy talking to students and families about the admissions process, helping students finalize their lists, helping students with their application, any admissions questions you have. So do feel free if you have questions after this to reach out. We're also here and we'll be standing by, so you can send us a private chat message if you have a quick general admissions question. We do webinars like this, and we also join in-person events. So you have the chance to meet Rachel in Western Canada this weekend. She'll be at the Study Go Abroad Fair in Vancouver on Saturday, and at the Study Go Abroad Fair in Calgary on Sunday. Oh, Rachel, would you mind maybe throwing in the chat or throwing up the link so that students can register if they'd like to go to that?
Sure, I'll do that.
Awesome. And also connect with us. Check out educationusacanada.ca. That's a great way to get started, to learn about the admissions process, and join us on social media. I'm going to go ahead and throw up our link to our Instagram account. We do Tuesday tips every week there. It's a great way to see more about scholarship opportunities, what Rachel and I are up to, and student spotlights. So check us out on Instagram, and YouTube is where all of our videos are. So this, once it's recorded, the same link that you registered with will gain you access to this recording, but we'll also put it on our YouTube channel where you can access all of our previous webinars. So that's my small spiel today. We are really happy to have three experts with us tonight. So we have three admissions officers joining us who are going to go through different aspects of standing out in the U.S. admissions process. We have Zach from Rice University, who will speak to you about what holistic admissions is and what's considered during that overview and that process. Alice from Washington College is going to go into more detail about writing your essay and really talking you through how to approach both your personal essay and some of the supplements you might encounter. And lastly, Janae is going to speak to you. She's from Binghamton University in New York, and she's going to talk to you more about the extracurricular profile. And I get that question all the time from students, especially grade 9, 10, 11. What should I be doing with my extracurriculars to stand out? What are U.S. universities looking for in that area? So we're going to dig into that a little more since it's such a big question. So you can feel free to give a round of applause virtually to all of our speakers. And at the very end, we'll have time for Q&A. So please use the Q&A area that we have here to throw your questions. We might, if you put them in the regular chat, we might push them over there if they're good questions to wait till the end to answer. So we'll do our best to answer as many questions as we can throughout the presentation. So with no further ado, I'd like to invite Zach Ogie to the stage to talk to us a little bit more about the holistic U.S. admissions process.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Well, thank you everybody for joining us this evening. Like Jenica said, my name is Zach Ogie. I am an Associate Director of Admission at Rice University in Houston, Texas. I'm also Rice's Canada Territory Manager. And so what that means is not only do I travel all throughout Canada to meet students, but when I come back to Houston, Texas, I read all of the applications from Canada. So that's why I like to do these sessions and get in touch with y'all in case you end up applying to Rice. But I'm excited tonight to present to you on the holistic U.S. admission process. So it is certainly very specific. The things that you might be asked to do, it's very different than if you're applying to Canadian universities. And so I wanted to talk through with you what that might look like. Now, do keep in mind that I am presenting on behalf of Rice University. So really quickly before that, Rice University is a research university in Houston, Texas. We have about 4,500 undergraduate students. Houston is the fourth largest city in the United States and the most diverse metro area in the United States. So if anybody's joining from the GTA, we are larger in population than the GTA. I think there's about twice as many people in Houston as there are in BC. A lot of our students are doing research. A lot of our students are having double majors, so about 40% of our students. The average starting salary for our graduates is about $90,000 US dollars per year in their first job. And we do have a really strong international population on our campus. So some of the most represented international citizenships are our Chinese citizens, Indian, Brazilian, and then Canadian citizens as well. But I did want to briefly introduce my university and give you a little bit of background, since of course that is the context and the experience that I'm speaking from. But I do hope that this session is helpful for you as you do apply to any U.S. university. Do keep in mind that, like I said, all universities will be a little bit different. But if you do hear the term holistic or contextual review, typically that means that students' applications are being reviewed within the context of their school and their environment, right? So we are looking to see what classes are available in your school, what rigor is available in your school, and how are you maximizing that? And so we discuss the opportunities that you've had available to you, because we would never expect that you're doing something that you don't have access to. So in the United States, it is very common for our domestic students to be taking AP classes. While I know a lot of Canadian schools do have AP classes, it's certainly not an expectation that a Canadian student is doing that. And so that is a little bit more about holistic or contextual review. We want to understand your experience, your environment, how you've excelled. And we're careful not to place too much emphasis on a single academic metric, such as your grade point average, such as an SAT, an ACT, or other marks. Now, there's a lot of things that can go into an application. All schools are different, but this right here is a list of a lot of the things that you might be asked to submit to U.S. universities as you apply. In our office, we like to discuss things that we refer to as admission factors. And so when we're discussing a student's competitiveness and preparation for the university, we discuss their academic pursuits and preparation, things like their characteristics, experiences, and accomplishments, as well as those external insights. And so that's what I wanted to talk to you today, both what you might be asked for and why you might be asked for it and how that might be used. And so academic pursuits and preparation. Truly all academic components do illuminate this and tell us a little bit more about your academic preparation. And so even your personal and family background is a great place to start, because that can indicate the type of support that you might have within your home environment. Because if a student has parents that went to U.S. universities, they might be more acquainted with the process of applying to a U.S. school and preparing for U.S. school. Whereas if we have our students that are first generation university students, the support in the home might look a little bit different. Those academic metrics are really kind of like the numbers you might be thinking of, right? So the marks, the GPA, grade point average, test scores, perhaps rigor. And that certainly does tell us about a student's preparation. We also oftentimes will discuss out of classroom pursuits and samples of work. So if you're applying for an arts program, perhaps, or a music program, you might be asked to supply a supplement that has a portfolio or an audition. Sometimes we'll have students that are interested in studying computer science or biology that tell us that they have, done some stuff at home. Maybe they have their own little science lab at home, not a real science lab, but kind of tinkering, as a 14, 15, 16, 17-year-old might. In the blue is student explanation, and that's really the heart of contextual or holistic review. It's really the how and the why of your application. So in all of your essays, in your additional information, maybe you have an interview at a school that you're applying to, this is how you can explain a little bit more, because we really do love to know the how and the why. And then lastly, in the yellow is school observations. So things like letters of recommendation and what your school is sending to us, that's what helps us understand what you've had access to, like I referenced earlier. In terms of characteristics, experiences, and accomplishments, again, personal and family background is really part of a lot of what we're looking at. But in the red, you can see engagements, contributions, and talents are also very important. And so think about like a resume for folks that are applying for a job. It's understanding, what does this student do in their free time? So we know that you're in class, we know that you're very busy, we know that you're very studious and working very hard to get your high marks, but we know that you have time outside of class. And so we want to understand, what are you doing? And that might be helping drive around younger siblings, it might be helping care for grandparents, a part-time job, or it could be clubs and organizations within your school. Again, open-ended explanations, it's really the heart of holistic or contextual review. So like I said, that how and that why. And oftentimes admission officers ask that and want to understand that, because that helps us understand how you would contribute to our university, right? So just like a high school or a secondary school, all universities in the US have their very distinct personalities and what's important to them and their values to them. And admission officers oftentimes might look at these aspects in light blue to understand your fit or your match for their institution. I'd also mentioned external insights. And so that's what folks that are not you are saying about you. And so we always encourage students to brag about themselves, get excited about applying to college. And I know it can be tricky, right? Because it can be a little weird to talk about yourself and brag about yourself. Maybe you're not comfortable doing it, but that is a lot of what you will be asked to do on a US application sometimes, depending on the school. While we want you to brag and talk about these things, we also like to hear what others are saying about you. And so that's why teacher recommendations can be helpful. And that's why some universities will ask for that, either from a counselor, a school administrator, or a school. And so that helps us understand, again, what you've had the opportunity to do, how you have excelled, because we know that all schools are not the same. Not all high schools are the same. We understand that curriculums might be different. It might be vastly different. And it is different between even Ontario and BC, for example. And so these types of external insights help us understand the preparation. I did want to discuss what my university, how we use these types of things. And so here's a statement that we always like to discuss and keep in the back of our mind. But what I really want to highlight is that we're evaluating a student within the context of their school, personal environment, and what they've had opportunity and access to, and the challenges they've faced. And so for my institution, we're looking for your intellectual curiosity. So kind of those academic things that I was discussing, right? And then impact on the community. So what are you doing outside of the classroom? Are you a collaborator? Have you taken on leadership opportunities? What excites you outside of your academics? And then lastly, your interest in rice. And so we look to see, we're asking you a supplement saying, actually, I'll go to the next slide because I'll quickly discuss the supplement. So it's a lot of words here, I know that, but off to the right, you can see the questions that Rice University asks in the supplement. And so we ask what a student wants to study and why. We ask why they want to go to Rice University. And then there's a 500-word essay that's similar to what, the personal statement or common application essay is. And so when I say that my university is considering your interest in Rice, we hope and expect that students are being specific in that supplement. We require 3 letters of recommendation. So for our institution, we like to see 1 from your counselor and 2 from teachers, because your counselor or school administrator helps us understand your school environment and your presence there. Whereas the teachers actually give us a lot of insight to how well you perform in the classroom and, the respect for your peers, respect for teachers. Are you doing well in group projects? Do you avoid group projects? Rice University is test recommended. So we are technically test optional, but we do prefer to see an SAT or an ACT. And so that is something that, you should be mindful of, because all US universities are incredibly different. Then lastly, Rice University, we do have an optional virtual interview, either with a Rice student or a Rice alumnus. Some universities will present that option, some will not. Some will say it's recommended or even required. And so really the point of this is, when you're making your list of universities that you hope to apply to in the US, really look at the requirements of what they're asking for, because they will all be vastly different. One thing I did want to briefly mention is number 4 off to on the right. You can see we have the rice box. This is a photo upload. This one's pretty unique. We actually ask students to upload a photo with their application. It's very open-ended. It's usually the thing that students stress the most about, because they're not used to submitting a photo with their application. But we get everything from family photos to vacations, pets, collections of keepsakes. We'll get memes, screenshots of Instagram or TikToks, anything like that. But it's a really great opportunity for students to, inject some personality into their application, because there are a lot of requirements. We recognize that. I, do not envy your position, because it is a lot of work, but we do want you to have the opportunity to show your personality and, discuss that as we're reviewing students' applications. But if I was given 2 hours, I could spend 2 hours talking about this, because there is so many really interesting and exciting pieces about the holistic review process and what, universities like Rice is looking for. But I don't have that time, unfortunately. But if you do have questions, of course, we will be doing a Q&A at the end of this. But if you'd like to get in touch with Rice University or myself, you can email admission@rice.edu, and we're happy to help you out.
Thank you so much, Zach. And for all the universities tonight, I'm also going to pull up this little poll here. So that should be, it should say, I'd like to learn more about Rice University, yes or no. So if you would like Zach to send you a follow-up information about his school, you can feel free to click yes, and he will do so. We will now move to our second speaker tonight. Alice Schaaf is from Washington College, and she's going to really dig into the U.S. admissions essay. To you, Alice.
Thanks, Jenica. Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here. As Jenica said, I'm Alice, and I'm from Washington College in Maryland. Just got to make sure. There we go. We are a small private liberal arts university, and by small, I do mean small. We have 1,000 students in undergrad only. We are located in a small town on the Chester River that's just off the Chesapeake Bay in Maryland, just across a bridge from Washington, D.C. and Baltimore, in easy reach of Philadelphia and New York City as well. So we have the best of both worlds. We have a small town and a small campus, but easy reach of this large megalopolis if you feel the need. We have all kinds of majors, and if you don't see whatever you want in this list, we have a larger list of minors. I'm always asked what kind of students we're looking for. Washington College has been doing this for quite some time. We are the 16th oldest university in the US, and we are very academic. We are looking for students who are not looking for a back row in their university or in their classrooms. We're looking for students who are comfortable being seen and known by their professors and their classmates. So you're going to be in classes that average about 12 with professors who are interested in you and your goals and what you want to do both while you're at Washington College and after Washington College. So I'm going to have my contact information at the end, and like Jenica said, she will get information if you want some more, and you'll have my email as well. So on to the fun part. I'm going to talk about essays in the context of the Common Application. And the Common Application is a platform that is used by hundreds of US universities where students can apply to many universities using one common base application. And then there are supplements, and that's what Zach was showing you, that the universities can tailor to their own interests next to the common part of the Common Application. In the common part of the Common Application, there's one, I call it the big essay, that's the personal essay or the personal statement. And this is 650 words for you to tell a story about yourself. And like Zach was saying, we are looking for, this is part of that holistic piece, we are looking for a three-dimensional human being that's going to take up space on our campus. So we really do want you to tell us about yourself. something that we don't get from any other part of the application. We're going to get numbers, we're going to get figures, we're going to get academic information from your letters of recommendation. So tell us a story about yourself in the personal essay. It doesn't have to talk about the subject that you're applying to, like you would have to do if you were applying to the United Kingdom. You're talking to us, the application reader. You're not talking to a faculty member, so you kind of have to keep your audience in mind. And you actually don't even have to write like a formal essay. It's not an intro paragraph, body paragraphs, and conclusion paragraph. And please don't write in conclusion in your conclusion paragraph. So it really is your opportunity to think of a good story, to come up with something to share with us that gives us some insight into you. What we're looking for is your voice. Again, we're trying to build a picture of you as that three-dimensional human that's going to be on our campus and is going to be in our classes and outside of our classes. And especially in the case of Washington College, when it's a small community, that really is going to make a difference. We know that you are going to make a difference on our campus, and so we want to see how you're going to do that. We're going to look for your writing ability. Can you develop the story that you're going to tell us? Can you build sentences? And again, are you giving us information that we didn't get elsewhere in the application? Like Zach was saying, this is part of that holistic application list, and all of those pieces fit together. Not any one is going to overbalance another one, but you need to choose your story topic carefully, because if you send us something weird, or you don't spend enough time on this, or this is not as polished as the rest of your application, you know, if your teachers write a letter of recommendation that says you're very careful about your schoolwork, and then you send us an essay that clearly hasn't been carefully written, you know, we're going to go, you know, so make sure that this piece fits all the other pieces of your application. Okay, you don't have to read this whole slide. You can Google Common Application Essay Prompts 2024-2025, and you will get this. The Common Application will give you 6 very detailed prompts for your essay, or the number 7 is share an essay on the topic of your choice. So you don't even have to use one of their 6. And I have conveniently highlighted for you the key to all of these essays. And the key is you. Isn't that sweet? It's like a Hallmark movie. The key really is you. We want to hear about you. So what I always encourage students to do is think about your story first. We want to know something about you. So whether you are playing in a championship game, climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, hanging out with your favorite person, it's not about climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, playing in the championship game, and your favorite person. It's about you. How are you using those things and people to reflect on yourself? And that's what these prompts are asking you. They're helping you reflect on yourself. A lot of deep thinking going on here. If the prompts don't get you where you want to go, then use number 7 and just do a topic of your own choice. Again, 650 words, you got a lot of time, a lot of space to play, but it's really wide open as to what you want to do. There are other essays for you to take a look at in the Common Application. Some of them are going to be in a supplement, like Zach was showing you that Rice has in theirs, and then some of them are going to be in the common part of the Common Application. There are 2 additional essays in the common part of the Common Application, and one is called the Additional Information Essay. And it states, just like it says here, do you wish to provide details of circumstances or qualifications not reflected on the application? This one will give you an additional 650 words, but keeping in mind your audience, please don't write another 650 word essay for this one. This is a paragraph, please, or bullet points. This is short and brief, and just tell us what you need to tell us. This might be your first semester of your freshman year was a disaster, and here's why, and you moved on, and look how well you did. Great. And let me tell you, a lot of first semesters of freshman year are a disaster, so you don't need a whole lot of explanation. So we just need whatever you need to share with us that you haven't had any space to tell us anywhere else on the Common App. This is a great place to do that. And you might not use this. Most students don't use this essay. This stays blank. This is completely optional. Even if other universities require the personal statement, this essay is always optional. The next essay that's on this slide is the why us essay. I call it the ego essay because the universities are like, tell us why you like us. Tell us how much you love us. Washington College recently dropped this from our supplement because we realized everyone was kind of saying the same thing about us. Our gorgeous campus, our small class size, all these lovely things. So we just said, we'll take that as a given and we'll let people get on with their lives and not have to write an essay. Again, this is an essay about you. Do not go to the website and cite all of our rankings and our majors and all those things. Talk about your connection. What makes you feel like you're going to stand out on that campus? What makes you feel like you're going to do well if you're going to be a student at Washington College? Is there a professor you want to work with? Is there something about that gorgeous river that draws you there? You want to do environmental science. So again, this is a paragraph. This is not another 650-word essay, even if you really, really love the university. Back to the common part of the common application. The community disruption essay was a new one during COVID. And it started out as just a COVID-based essay, and then they added natural disasters. This is another completely optional essay that most students will not write. Again, it's 650 words, but it does not have to be 650 words. This is very brief. It can be, again, bullet points, a paragraph. This is literally just giving us information that we don't get anywhere else on the application. And this has very specific guidelines for who should be writing this. It's for students who have had deep and long-lasting impacts from COVID-19 or natural disasters, fires, floods, hurricanes, tornadoes, and whose well-being, safety, family circumstances, future plans, and education, including access to reliable technology and quiet study spaces, was impacted. So again, not everybody's going to write this essay, but if you do, please tell us. Like, this is the kind of thing that we want to know. This is the kind of thing that would help us understand, like Zach was saying, where you're coming from and give shape to your application. So it says, do you wish to share anything? If you click yes, then a box will pop open for you to put your essay in. If you click no, you just move on. Again, this is completely optional. I want you to get feedback on your essays, but I'm going to give you a caveat on this one. At least get another set of eyes on it. Ideally, somebody from school, maybe a friend, English teacher, your careers counselor, somebody like that. Be careful about checking in with your parents on your essays. They are very well intentioned and they want you to write the best essay possible, but sometimes they will edit instead of proofread. And this is where you have to be very careful, because if they edit your essay, it ends up sounding like a 40-something-year-old wrote your essay and not a 17 or 18-year-old. And we know what a 17 and 18-year-old look like or sound like when they write an essay. Same thing with AI. This is why you don't want to get any AI help on your essay either, because that sounds different than a 17 and 18-year-old. Again, we don't expect this to be perfect because we've read hundreds of these and we know what they sound like. We don't expect them to be perfect. We want you to have another set of eyes on it, but not perfection. So please get another set of eyes, get some help, but maybe not parents. Okay, this is my contact information. I am a recovering high school English teacher. If you couldn't tell, I love to talk about essays. If you would like to contact me, I'd be happy to talk about yours, even if you don't decide to apply to Washington College. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Alice. Let's give Alice a round of applause. She's always my go-to for letters of rec and essays. Such great advice. Thank you so much. And that will take us to our third speaker of the evening. Janae Norris comes to us from Binghamton University, part of the State University of New York system. I'll hand it over to you, Janae.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm excited to talk about your extracurricular profile. This is the fun part of the admissions application. It's also the fun part of your experience in high school. And to be frank, it also can be part of your college experience. And U.S. universities are known for having really robust opportunities for students to be involved and engaged. And I work at a campus, Binghamton University, part of the State University of New York, where we have 450 different organizations that help students to stand out and to make themselves unique, and to be doing things that you love and you're passionate about. And this is where you get engaged on the campus or the community. And hopefully in high school, you're using it to explore and to enjoy yourself and to have fun. And I think it's really critical and important. So I'm excited to talk about that. Just a little bit about Binghamton University. We are part of the public Ivies. We're really excited that Forbes recognized us yet again for that. We have about 14,000 undergraduate students. We are what they consider a medium-sized U.S. university. We're kind of that Goldilocks, just the right size, in my opinion. You got lots of activities, 130 different majors, choices of what you can pick from. We've got a great location in upstate New York, so it's pretty reasonable and affordable for students, but there's tons to do on the campus and tons of activities. We are a Carnegie Class 1 research institution. We are very unique in offering research opportunities for students as early as their first year. We actually have a first-year research immersion program sponsored by the National Science Institute. So we're excited for students to be able to be engaged in research at Binghamton. Our facilities are pretty amazing. And as I said, we have about 130 different majors that you can choose from. And we are, just like the types of students that we have with being a medium size, we attract all different types of students, whether it be a student who's actively engaged in research or somebody who's involved in loving doing multiple things. And so they're engaged in things like art and engineering, or our music students who want to do business and have a lot of choices and options. And that's kind of what being involved in getting your extracurriculars allows you to do. And I think it really matters so much for you as a student. If we have 9th graders here and 10th graders, that's wonderful. You have opportunities now to really build that resume and to get involved and engaged and find the things that you're passionate about and what you like. Some activities we know work really well. Some activities are things that you're like, oh, this is not for me. I tried it out and did it one year, and it's perfectly fine to step away from that after the time period and say, that's not what I want to be involved in and engaged in. I also want to state, I have some students, the impact on a college admissions application, we're not going to penalize a student if you don't have access to do these things. We know that there are programs where students just don't have enough time. And I think it's something that the extracurriculars matter if you can be involved and engaged in them. And at the college or university that you choose, it's going to be based on what you want to do, and you can want to be engaged with the things that are allowing you to pursue the things that you like and enjoy. And it showcases kind of your skills, your passions, and your interests. But if you can't be involved in those, we know there's other ways to demonstrate that, whether it be through your essay and your interests, and say, I have a passion or interest in doing this. And, to be frank, coming out of high school and secondary school, you may not know what your skills and your passions are yet. And that's perfectly fine to help develop those. That's one of those things. We attract all different types of students, and colleges and universities are really looking at what you can be involved in and engaged in. But we also know that there's some students that are really focused academically. There's also students that are so involved in lots of different activities that it's, there's a balance of what's best for you and what you want to be part of and active in. I've had students, and it's made a big difference in terms of their admissions application, that only had one activity that they were part of. And what it was actually something related to academics at their school. They were involved in research, and they wrote all about that and showcased that as kind of the best activity that they were part of and what they enjoyed and what they did. We've also had students that, have not had access to those, and you can let us know about that. And that's perfectly fine in that essay if you didn't have access in those opportunities. We're not going to penalize a student, but we are looking for those reasons of what a student can bring. And so it can also enhance an application when you apply. We know that, our music programs and our music theater and other opportunities are there for students to showcase and to be available. And we want to have those robust offerings for students. We also know that sometimes it's just looking at what you're committed to and what you want to go into in a field or a cause. This is particularly true, like if you're looking at the medical field, they love to see that you've been involved or engaged in, shadowing or going in and volunteering in a hospital or other organization, because it does make you stand out a little bit and showcase, that you have a real interest in that, or that you've read journals about something, can be also really beneficial as well. So what counts as an extracurricular? And there's so many different options and opportunities for students. It can be clubs. So it can be things that you're involved in at your high school, whether it be, science Olympiad or math club or debate. Community service is another thing, volunteering, fundraising. And we know, you may have a really robust academic year. And so volunteering can take place during when you have breaks or when you have summers and things like that. So those things can make a big difference in your application. Sports or athletics can also be an extracurricular. So whether it be, being involved with varsity sport or a community club sport or intramurals, we will look at that information and kind of take that into context as well. Arts or creative pursuits, music, drama, art clubs. There's so many different options of what you can do. We also look at work internships or part-time jobs. If you have work experience, those are things that also help you. And it depends on the fields that you're going into as far as what those experiences matter. You can also do personal projects, things like blogs or YouTube or coding projects. Or, I've had students that have done, newsletters or different things. So there's lots of different opportunities that can count as an extracurricular. It's not a laundry list as far as when you're applying to colleges. We're looking for details that kind of help you stand out, and we can show that those are going to be things that are looking to help our campus and to come to our campus and be beneficial. As I said, it's about fanning that passion and that purpose of what you want to pursue. Extracurriculars help you stand out, and some of the most unique people that I've worked with or talked with have been involved in so many different pursuits, and then they find what they really enjoy. We actually had a student at Binghamton who started the cheese club, and she actually started that, and they taste different cheeses on campus and enjoy themselves. She actually started a business, and she now has an award-winning cheese. She develops cheese and sells cheeses in an artisan shop that she opened. So she, pursued that here at Binghamton as a club, but then she went on and created a business that let her find her passion and enjoyment. So you never know the things that you're doing in college, what that's going to lead to and how it's going to end up in helping you to really enjoy your life and to be part of your experience. As far as when you're crafting that well-rounded profile, and you want to look at the things that, you like and what you enjoy and what you have access to as well. Sometimes it may be as simple as, talking with the teachers at your school and saying, we don't have this club, but I have an interest in it. Can we start this club? Or can I do this project one time? Those are opportunities where you can kind of craft it for yourself and to meet your needs and your interests, and be able to demonstrate that then when you apply to a U.S. university or college. When you look at the activities, I think, at the very beginning, we said, this is the time to showcase the things that are most important to you and demonstrating what you've gained from it. I had another student who started a club at Binghamton called the Useless Skills Club, and they did things like unicycling and juggling. When he actually went for his job at IBM, what they said to him was that it's made him stand out, not because of the unicycling and the juggling, because they didn't really care about that at the job, but he also demonstrated that he gained marketing skills, that he gained critical skills in developing that Useless Skills Club, because he had to negotiate. He had to, really learn from that experience that he had. I've had high school students that have demonstrated that very similarly to me and said, I was part of a Key Club. They had a food drive, and I actually was coordinator for that. And what they gained from that experience, that one activity that they did, really made them stand out as a candidate that I was like, oh, I want them at Binghamton. And so you want to think of how can you demonstrate and represent that. What they said with the food drive is that they wanted to meet a goal, and they wanted to beat all the previous records of what the campus had at their high school in donating cans and foods. And they actually took it on as a big challenge for themselves. And they did some really creative ways to bring in the canned goods. And they made it into a competition with the different levels at their school. So you never know that activity that you're turning into achievements, how it's going to stand out and be represented. While you're doing this, you also should be having fun. And, if you're able to give back and to really help your community or to help your high school, it can be really also beneficial for you, because I do think that's also something that's really critical and important for students to do. And hopefully, you're enjoying these activities as you're doing them. So as far as, showcasing your application and your activities in that application, there's use action words, look at measurable outcomes if you can, represent that. And as I said, that one student with the food drive, she talked about how they beat the record at the high school for the amount of cans that they brought in. You also want to showcase and highlight how the activities shaped your goals or contributed to your community. That was a big impact. She said it really helped a lot of families and individuals. So that example kind of gives you, more about how she demonstrated that. Provide, really active descriptions or annotate, you can say briefly, if you've got a lot of things that you're involved in, you may have to make those a little bit more abbreviated in your example, but you can tell us certain things and you got to pick and choose the ones that are most important to you. You don't want to overload with too many activities. As I said, that will overwhelm you and your parents for that matter, and having to drive you to different activities or events. So kind of pick and choose the things that you like and what you enjoy. So it also demonstrates you have a little bit of a passion and focus. You want to, don't just choose them because you think it's going to look good on your college admissions. Do the things that you're genuinely interested in. It shows and it demonstrates on your application as far as if you enjoyed it or were passionate about it. I think also in terms of, if you're just a member, are you really gaining enough, or have you really been engaged or involved in it? Demonstrate that when you're submitting your applications. And then you want to don't underestimate your leadership and your impact. That student that was part of the canned food drive, it was just one activity. So you did not have a leadership role officially in the organization, but she took on that specific challenge in that event that they had. So you can demonstrate how you had gained leadership or what you've benefited from that. So it's really critical and important to kind of demonstrate that. And last but not least, in terms of what we're looking for in colleges and universities, we are really looking for students that are committed, that have an interest or a passion in balancing things out. You'd want to look at kind of the importance and authenticity for yourself and how you present those extracurriculars. Talk to people that are part of the organization that you're involved in and say, does this make sense? Is this something that you would say when you read this about me and what I've been involved in and engaged in? And then I know we're going to open it up to questions overall for everyone. So it's been a pleasure talking with you about the extracurriculars and getting involved in high schools.
Thank you so much, Janae. And I did forget to launch the Washington College poll right away when Alice was speaking. So if you're interested in learning more about Washington College, that poll is open. And I'm now launching the Binghamton University poll. So if you'd like to learn more about Janae's University, Binghamton, please go ahead and click yes. And so we are going to move into the Q&A portion. A few people have put questions in the Q&A section, so I'm going to start with those. If you have questions as we get started, please put them in that area so they don't get lost in the main chat. First question. Should a prospective student add photos to the actual application, to the essay, or to the extracurriculars list? So with that, I'll actually say, let's broaden that. Links to photos, links to videos, or links to websites, because I get those questions a lot. Let's throw that one to Zach, because that's kind of on the holistic side, and then feel free to chime in, Janae or Alice, if you'd like.
Yeah, I think it really depends. If you've done a few EdUSA sessions, you probably hear that all the time because we are not standardized. And so I'll speak on behalf of my university, and I think the other two admission folks should probably chime in too. If you send us links in your common application, the way that it renders over, like we can't click on those links, at least for my university. And so if in an activity, you're describing and saying like, go to this Instagram, like we in theory could type it in manually, but we're pretty efficient. And so we don't type it in manually. What's better for our university is if you're sending in like PDFs or like things directly to us, because we can manually attach it. But again, it depends. I don't know if Janae or Alice, if you want to add anything.
I would say, also you want to think of the time that we have for applications. Every campus is going to be a little bit different in what they do. I like the idea of the PDFs. I think that's a great because you're showcasing the information briefly. When students provide the web links, sometimes we will look at them, sometimes we will not. It depends on the timing of where we are in the cycle and how many applications we're at that point in time. We actually had over 50,000 applications to Binghamton last year. So when you get into the individual web links and other things, it gets time consuming. So I'd rather have it all on the application if you can, and summarize it there and then say, if you want more details, go to this website, and that's perfectly fine.
I would agree. I don't think there's any way to really put anything into the Common App effectively. Sending a separate PDF is probably the only way you're going to be able to do that.
All right, I'll start with Alice, and actually probably don't need everyone to chime in on this one. Do the personal essay topics stay the same every year?
They do in general. There was a big shift about 3 years ago, but they generally tend to stay the same. And they are so generic that even if they change, they're still going to be the same. And there will always be, number 7 is always a topic of your own choice. So have at it. Like, I mean, it really doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. They're all generic and they're all about you. So this year's crop is the same as last year's, and it will probably be the same next year, but you never know. But it's never going to be a huge overhaul if you're planning ahead.
Yeah, and the one thing that does change is the supplemental essays, and the supplemental essays are usually launched with the university application around August of the grade 12 year. So sometimes it can be challenging to get started on those early, especially if they change significantly. And we have seen some universities make really significant changes with their essays in the last couple of years. So you just have to keep your eye out for that. Regarding writing your activities, so this is actually filling out the Common App. Would you be able to give an example of using action words and a measurable outcome when writing about your activities? So basically just a few tips for the activities list. Janae, why don't you start with that one?
Yeah, so I was actually trying to think of some good examples of what I had read last year from students. Championships are something that, I see frequently. Leader, president of a club, led the organization, actively, increasing the number of participants in an activity is something that I've also seen students represent and just demonstrate really well. And those are things that kind of, you get excited about reading those things from a student and saying, okay, you took on and you did something and really accomplished a great deal, and we're able to read that in the essay. Does anybody else or in the application, does anybody else have any other good examples they want to share that stood out to them from last year for activities?
I would say on the activities list in the Common App, you have 150 characters to describe your activity. So it's not full sentences. It's like you can even use like abbreviations, and so you're really like you're getting as much as you can and as few characters as possible. So if there really is an activity that you really need to tell us more about, that would be the additional information essay. But again, keep it short. And then the activities, make sure you notice that they're supposed to be in order of their importance to you. So that means something to us as well. The way that you order them does tell us something as well.
That's actually bringing up a good point, because every campus does it a little bit differently. So Common App does it one way. We give students an opportunity on our portal that they can, on their application, that they can add, upload items. And so we allow them a full 2 pages that they can upload of their items, and they can actually do multiple versions of it. So we have some students that, when you get above 2 pages, though, I will say that it gets a little bit redundant and not helpful to the admissions office.
That's cool. Yeah, and some universities will let you upload a resume in addition to your application. So you can take advantage of that, certainly, if there are things you want to highlight.
Yeah, and this is a place where we help out a lot with Education USA, right? So I'm usually reviewing students' activity section, giving some feedback there. And the biggest reminder I like to give is that you have 50 characters for the leadership and position. You have 100 characters for the organization name, and you have 150 characters for the description or impact. So you actually have 150 additional characters in the name and the organization. So use those to your advantage. You can sneak a lot of info into those first two things so that you don't have to repeat it in the description area. So that's a way to maximize your characters. So the next one I'm going to throw to Zach first. How can I effectively demonstrate the impact of my leadership activities, particularly leadership roles or passion projects? And passion projects is a word I'm hearing a lot this year. So I think that's the buzzword on the internet this season.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. And I think a lot of this goes back to what Janae was saying about like the actionable terms. I think one thing, so like if you're a leader of a club, I think it's helpful for us to know like how long have you been the leader of a club? Like what roles did you have before that? Right? Like it's not often that somebody's just like immediately elected to be president of this large organization. You typically have had a buildup, right? Or if you are, if you've helped expand a club, or if you're part of a club and you're an officer in it and it's an incredibly large club at your school, like tell us that, because we don't know, right? In Texas is crazy. Like we always say, everything's bigger in Texas. There's some schools in Texas that the senior or like the grade 12 class is like 1,300 students. And so being a president of one of those clubs is a huge deal because there's so many students. And so it's helpful for us to know that. Passion projects, I mean, it's hard, right? Because you're given such a limited amount of space. I honestly think I see a little bit more about passion projects sometimes in the personal essay, because you have 650 words to describe something. And usually if it's a passion project, it's something that you're very excited about. And we like to know like why, right? Like, is it tied to a future goal, a past experience? But yeah, anybody else want to add anything there?
I think that you're right about seeing it more in the essay frequently where they're talking about their passion projects. But the student that I was talking about with the example of the food drive, it was actually in her activities, and it was a passion project that she had, although it was for a club and organization. But it was something that she was really, the passion that she had to really accomplish a great deal. So I think the way you describe it can make a big difference in the passion projects.
Tone, adjectives, which is why having another few sets of eyes on your essay writing is really useful, making sure you're really getting across how important. There's so many times when I read a student's essay and they're downplaying their contributions so much and saying, oh, the group did this or the group did that. And I go, wait, didn't you do something really important? And they kind of admit it. So I know that can be challenging to sometimes feel like you're bragging about yourself, but it is really important to highlight your contributions in those spaces.
Can I add something really quick?
Please do, go for it.
Don't assume that admission officers know everything about the clubs at your school, right? And so like some organizations, if you're involved in like student council, or if you're like president or like head boy, head girl, like these, or like Duke of Edinburgh, like we'll see that sometimes, like these types of like huge, large scale things we're familiar with. But if it's a group that's very like regional, that's only in your town or only in your school, like just the name is not going to tell us enough. And that's not enough information for us to advocate for you. Because if I don't know what it is, then our job, all of us on this panel here, like we want to advocate for you, but you have to give us the information to do that.
Yeah, I love that these are your advocates, the people who are part of international admissions, particularly your Canadian representative. They want to get as many Canadians into their school as possible, right? So give them the information to make that argument. I'm sure you're not shocked. It's October 24th. I'm getting a lot of questions about early action, early decision. It's on students' mind. I know that's not quite what today's session's about, but if you would talk a little bit about how should students decide whether to apply early action or early decision? And you can maybe mention whether or not your school has one of those policies. How does it impact their chances? Is it an advantage for international students? Those are a couple of things that people asked. Yeah, so I see Janae, go ahead.
Yeah, I get this question all the time, so I'm accustomed to it. Binghamton is an early action school. What early action does, it allows you to apply early to us. By early, you can apply by November 1st, and we will give you an answer by January 15th. It is not binding. You are not committed to coming to Binghamton. You have until our application or decision deadline of May 1st, to make your decision about what you want. What happens though in early action is a lot of the strongest students tend to apply early. And so we offer a lot of our honors type programs to our early action candidates. And when you have a limited amount of seats, sometimes more students proportionally get accepted into those honors programs by applying early than ones that apply a little bit later. So it's something to look at and to think at. Each university is going to be a little bit different in the way that they do it. Is anybody here in early decision school? Okay, I'll let you talk about that.
I guess it just depends on if you're ready to get married or not. Like it's the dating scenario, right? If you're totally in love and you have to be completely in love because you're saying to the school, I love you and I want to marry you and be with you forever, and the school says back, we love you and we want to marry you and be with you forever, and then you're done. Then you have to it's it. You're getting married. So early action means that you're saying, I love you a lot, and I've been thinking about you, but I want to keep dating other people. And early action says, that's great. You can keep doing that. So it's a lot of opportunity. I like telling students that early action, apply as many early actions as you can, because a lot, like Janae was saying, scholarships tend to go away the later you apply. So a lot of the big scholarships have earlier deadlines. But early decision does make a difference. If it is that one university that you really, really love, then you need to talk to Education USA, talk to your school counselor, and you do have to sign an agreement. Your school counselor has to sign an agreement, and your parents have to sign an agreement for early decision. It is not something to be taken lightly.
I don't have too much to add, but I do want to say that if you're considering applying to a college or university early decision, ask them these questions, because we know it's not a decision that you should be taking lightly. And so we will be that is one of the things that we ethically really need to be transparent with you about, what the acceptance rate difference is, if there's a difference, or scholarships or financial aid. And so don't be afraid, right? We're not going to giggle about you. Oh my gosh, they're asking this question. It's a big commitment. So it is a very common question that us admission officers get.
All right, Zach, I'm going to stay with you. We have 3 questions that have come through that are essentially, how important are AP classes? How many should I take? How much does the IB program affect the application? So just generally speak to APs and IBs. And of course, not all schools have AP or IB programs in Canada.
Yes. It's one of those, it depends. So like I was saying earlier, if your school does not have AP or IB programs, we're not expecting that you're taking AP and IB programs, because we're expecting that you're maximizing what's available to you. My university, we're a selective university, so we're typically admitting less than 10% of our applicants. And so some of these decisions, a lot of the times, do hinge on the academic rigor. And so if a student has a lot of AP or an IB diploma option in their school, or IB HL higher level classes, we really like to see that, because that demonstrates preparation. But so they can be helpful. It's typically not a requirement. I think one of the very helpful things at many universities and colleges is that a lot of us will let you get credit for that if you get a certain score on an AP, or sometimes a certain score on an IB. And so it's less courses to take, once you get to the college or university level. But they can be helpful if you don't have the option to do them. Certainly don't stress yourself out. And all universities are different, right? And so if you are applying to a school that they're saying, we are a selective school, we really value this, that's something to be mindful of. And again, that's something that you can ask admission officers. We will be very transparent about that.
Thank you. So there's one question left and we're right at time. So I'm going to pitch it to Janae because it's about extracurriculars. Should our extracurriculars, high school extracurriculars, focus on what we're passionate about learning after high school? So essentially, do they have to be part of the major or what that person wants to study?
It doesn't. I mean, that's one of the benefits of the extracurriculars is there's so many different pathways of what you can choose from and do the things that you enjoy. And it could be a sport, it could be an activity, it could be a community service project. It doesn't have to be one thing that's going to tie you into something. It's just something that you want to be involved and engaged in, something that you really like and enjoy. So I encourage students to pick those extracurriculars wisely in terms of when they're involved in them, and then showcase them in the best light. The actual which one it is not necessarily as important as that you've gained something from that.
Thank you so much to all of our panelists. Please feel free to have an emoji explosion to show your gratitude for all the great information that they shared today. Remember that you can be in touch with both Rachel and I to ask more questions about the admissions process and to receive support on your application. Do note that if you haven't been in touch with us until now and you're applying early, it might be a little too late to get a lot of feedback on your application. I think the other little caveat I would say to early admissions is when you're a week away, if your application is not almost done by now, it might be a little bit of a stretch for it to shine on November 1st. And then I see that some of the admissions officers are throwing their contact info into the chat. So thank you again. And we will go ahead and wrap up. Have a great evening, everyone. And good luck on your applications.